time to deal with some cracks. Hello! Welcome to another video. A bit of bandsaw action to begin with. Oh, sorry for that blurriness. Every time I restart OBS, my webcams go back into autofocus mode. I should change it, but I'm too excited to get going with the bandsaw. Yeah, a bit of sycamore. Lovely blank in the middle there. Two longer blanks, which I'm going to actually include the splits in. And probably today's video is going to be turning one of those into a decorative object. Or should I say objet? To the bandsaw! For today, I'm going to try to do something with these bits. The idea is to retain some of this. So here we go, back in the world of voiceovers, using my new Simon Hope roughing gouge. Wonderful, wonderful. It's very nice having a bit of a larger roughing gouge. Everyone needs at least two sizes of roughing gouge as a minimum. So I've cut out a lot of the juddering of the cutting of this because it was a little bit hit and miss with that natural edge. It's not a completed finished turning. This is an exercise in colouring and being adventurous, curious, creative and making mistakes. And here's one of those mistakes in action. I probably should not have wire brushed the bark edge. Don't like it. But there we go. Unless you do it, you don't know. Sanding, a little bit juddery as well, where we've got all that natural edge missing. And then the playtime, the bit we're all here for really. Jo Sonja gold paint, just being brushed on all the way into that texture. I've quite heavily edited all the colouring techniques in this week's video, just to avoid too much watching things dry. So gold background, then I thought I'd try a little bit of blue aquamarine, I think, over the top, get a bit of texture, movement, depth in it, but perhaps even just very shiny gold on its own would have been enough. A couple of other blues tried out. I really saw this as an opportunity to play, experiment, see what would happen. And at the moment it doesn't look great, does it? A bit messy. Even a little bit of pearl white over the top couldn't make this look decent. So that's done, and some cogitation involved while it dries. Sanding off the overpainting, because I want to have a big contrast between the two surfaces. Now I know that with stain you put it on bare wood, but I wanted to try a particular technique similar to the blue wash bowl from a few weeks back. And sealing the wood allows the stains to sit on the surface, to puddle, to pool. And that was the look I was going for, which we'll get to a little bit later on. Going to start off with the usual colouring methods, wiping a base colour on. Back to my favourite combinations of yellow, orange, red and black. So just getting that onto the smooth turned part, and then a good bit of dabbing, bit of orange coming on. And rather than wipe this over the top, you can see I've folded the paper up and I'm just putting it on in sort of rough lines. And I think what I want to bring attention to is at the moment this looks very crude, quite childish, simplistic. But if you keep going and get beyond that and build up colours, you will get something looking much more sophisticated. Haha, says I. So after orange, of course, comes red, and then some black. The black, putting on a little bit more sparingly to begin with, thinner lines, more tightly folded kitchen roll. And as the stain dried on the kitchen roll, I needed to press a little bit harder, getting some quite fine speckling effect going on. So it's lost that very crude look that was there when there was just the yellow and the orange on it. Now a good bit of patting the paper heavily, going back over with orange. I'll probably go back over with red. Oh, yep, there we go. And probably at some point even yellow. The stains do reactivate each other. And here we go with the puddling and the pooling effect. So a paintbrush with a stain. And what you can see there is that when the red has gone on, it's blended with the colours underneath. It's taken away some of that variation of shade, which I actually like. And I'm not sure combining the two was a good idea or not. Have a look at that bit where I've just put the yellow. You might think that it would just get lost. But you can see as it dries, it's worked with the other stains underneath, and we've got a lighter pool of colour in the middle of that black line where the sort of the hard edges of each brush stroke have dried a darker colour. So getting a little bit finer in my approach. So there's some red, that shows that again, that it's varied colour underneath. You put the red stain on and it blends those colours, reactivates them. And part of that is because of the stain sitting more on the surface. You can get the same effect without putting sealer on. It just take a bit more coats of stain, a few more coats of stain. Look at the delicate precision that I'm employing now. I really like this edge actually. Having said, I'm not sure if I should have combined the two techniques, but well, I think they work quite well. This is the problem area for me. So some darker blue. Let's give that a rub in and see if that makes any difference. Well, a little, but not hugely. It meant I had to keep going back indoors and washing my hands. Probably should have found a different way of putting it on, a stiff brush. Some old toothbrushes, that's what I need to use. But it did pop the contrast a bit more, but not entirely happy. Oh, there we go, some lovely aquamarine blue. See if that will do what I want it to. Well, it's bolder, it's a bit brighter. Leave it for now. And like I said, back with a bit more stain. So where those pools of puddles of colour had dried and made a more uniform colour inside them, I wanted to mottle that a little bit more. So back with some yellow, and then there was some red and orange. And then some more sealer. Be interesting to see how this dries on the mantelpiece, where they're having two coats of sealer and then gloss lacquer, which is be the final coat. They should be fine on something this size. I don't think I'm going to experience any problems with them cracking or crazing. All in all, I think I did 6 coats of lacquer, but I did sand back between each two. There you go, there's some evidence of cutting back, isn't there? With one of the Nyweb rags, wiping off the dust with a tack cloth. Dust is an enemy to lacquer. And there we have some lacquer going on. So the gloss lacquer, something shiny. Always manage to miss a little bit, so check it carefully. The temptation is to put too much on at once, which I've done a few times. Now just going to bring that shine up a little bit This was quite tricky to buff by hand. I wouldn't recommend it. Much better results with the lathe off and rubbing along with the grain. There's something almost snake-like about that skin to me.
Well, here it is, an experimental piece, a natural edged column. Branch. Well, it's not a branch, it was a big bit of trunk actually, wasn't it? Cut off from the side of a blank. I haven't done anything about the top. I haven't done anything much about the bottom. I'm just going to put it on the mantelpiece and admire it and cogitate, because I wanted to do something that contrasted the colouring on the outside and the natural edge that was left there. I think the texturing may have been a mistake, but you don't know if you don't try. I am very pleased though with the colouring. Those techniques of layering the colours over, building it up, you know, down here, before I started piling it on and getting the dark brown black rings where the edges of colours where they were pooling, a bit like the blue wash bowl from a few weeks back. But I think that makes it a very, very interesting surface. Does it quite have the wow factor? Not quite for me. This contrast colour, not entirely perfect. I wonder whether it should be darker. Battleship grey. The next one I do, I think I'll leave untextured and just plain. Maybe even natural. Just a bit of oil on it or something. Anyway, that's about it for this week. So, thanks for watching.